So as I was mentioning, we moved up here and we have 19 acres. And most of that acreage is alder trees, pine trees, and several different kinds of trees that to be honest, we've been here almost 4 years and I've never walked in certain parts of the property. It's just too steep. One of these days we will. We can drive at the bottom of our property and see the hills, but we tend to stay in, I guess, 5 main areas up here. There are 5 different gardens that we refer to. And because there are so many plants and so many trees and so many flowers, a lot of the first couple that built this house, she loved plants. They both loved plants, and part of their pastime was to go to nurseries and just collect all these exotic, Japanese maples and all these wonderful specimens. So I have spent a lot of time, and I still am spending a lot of time getting to know the plants, getting to know their habitats and which ones do better, which ones come back year after year. So to help myself, I set up a binder system, and I ordered 5 binders, and this is the shade garden binder, which I'll show you in a minute. And so every time I would buy a plant or see a plant that I loved and I researched it, I would put it in here. It's in the binder. You can see it's in the very beginning stages. I have just tags of plants that I planted up here. In this particular garden, I don't have a lot of new things. This is one of the last gardens that we've kind of worked on. There were other areas that needed more attention first. But anyway, we have a good start, and so I have 5 binders that correspond to the 5 different garden areas. And for each one, I'll give you a tour. The first view of the shade garden that I really think is just majestic is this old maple. And there is just something very glorious about it. It's just, darn it, you can't really get a sense of it from here, but I'll walk towards it a little bit. It's just this beautiful old tree, and it just stands strong, and it's just the beginning to the shade garden. And I would consider this area part of the shade garden as well, even though it gets more sun. In the second year or so, we planted all these 5 or 6 fruit trees. There's cherry and pear and plum. And we planted these in the front because there is some sun and it does grow fruit. It's one of the few areas that we could plant the fruit trees. However, the deer love them, so I think we're going into our 3rd year and we have not had any fruit yet, but we'll see. Anyway, we'll continue up these steps. So we're really in the shade garden now. And this is a great time to show you the different gardens, because even though they may look bare, it's good to get a sense for the lay of the land. So the shade garden is in the center of both driveways. It's a loop driveway. There's our beautiful water fountain with lion heads. It's one of the first things I fell in love with up here. And right behind it, this is the best view. You can see all the cedar trees, which are in a ring. And I didn't discover that until being here a couple of years. But if you stand in the center, they're actually in a circular ring right around you. I don't know if it was planned that way or not. And we did a lot of pruning last year because this garden has been left unattended. I always think of The Secret Garden, the book, where the garden was just let go for many years. So I came in last year and really pruned things. We cut some trees out that were just dead. And here you have the little crocus starting to bloom. When the snowbells come up and the crocus come up, that's always a sign that spring is almost here. And even today, it's beautiful. Here's snowdrops over here. They're also coming up. I'll get these on. Here's all the snowdrops. They actually come out before the crocus do. And this garden actually needs a lot of work. And I really honestly haven't given it the attention it needs. I just kind of cleaned it out. I start by cleaning something out and then I come back in and plant. And this is a Japanese tree. I forget the name right now, but apparently in the fall, if you walk by it at the right time, it smells like burnt sugar. And it's beautiful. Its leaves are gorgeous and they go all the way through late fall. And anyway, if you come up here, there's a limelight hydrangea right here, which doesn't look like much, but I trimmed it up last year and it was just, the panicles on it were huge and beautiful. So it's coming back to life, which is nice. And in here I planted a lot of daylilies, which aren't really doing that great. They don't get enough sun. Even though it says they don't need a lot of sun, I think they do. So we had one tree cut down that was leaning over the driveway. I hate cutting trees down, but sometimes we do, as painful as it is. And this was a problem for, we have like propane and big trucks that come down for deliveries, and they kept hitting the limbs and the tree wasn't doing much. So by it being cut down, it lets a lot more light in here for all the hydrangeas, which I've planted, which again don't look like a lot now, but in a couple of months this garden will come back to life. And here's a dogwood tree. There's dogwood trees all over. Anyway, what else? The last part is when you come down the driveway from our entrance. I wanted something to sort of bring your eye to the shade garden, and I found this old pot and we put a beautiful hydrangea plant in there. Anyway, in the hot summer, and it does get hot here, believe it or not, it is nice to come in here and just cool off.